Okay? No is no. Okay? Good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
Let Rosa alone.
You wanna hold that forever?
I was waiting on Rosa.
You can see it in the dark?
Sure, you can see everything.
You get Heidi.
Rosa! You bad. Go get the kitty. Go get Peter. Sick him. Go.
And do you start?
You start.
Okay.
Tell him about Deutschland. Which story were you going to tell him?
I didn't think
You
I
said you were
anything.
going to tell him about me.
Oh,
See?
well, really,
Which one?
I know which one, but it is so out of the blue. Anyway, when we lost our farm, we tried to go to West Germany, and we found a place on a big farm, 2,000 acre farm, and we stayed there because my husband was a farmer, nothing else but a farmer.
Now, was this in Germany?
Yeah. Oh, Heidi, I hope you haven't not on, and he hears that.
Who hears it?
Really.
I don't worry about Willie. This is mine.
Okay. So we all had to work. He wouldn't hire us unless the kids worked too. Everybody had a job.
This was after the war.
Yeah. That was after the war. So we planted vegetables. Were vegetable farm, mostly vegetable. And in the winter time we would go snow and ice, dig the snow away, and the ice, and cut the spinach. And of course he would make lots of money with that fresh
The
spinach
farmer. Yeah.
to the big cities. So anyway, so then we also would dig,
Sugar beets.
yeah, sugar beets. Okay, and the kids would come from school, and Heidi was 12,
I wasn't 12.
10.
Yeah, I was
10.
8. No, I was 8 years old when we came from Germany.
Oh boy, Heidi.
I was just
Anyway,
a little fella.
yeah, I made the kids grow up quick, like, because I had to work all the time. I had 6 children. I had to work, and my husband had to work outside. So the children grew up quick, like, because they had to do some housework.
Because we went through the war and lost everything.
Of course, we had a nice living with the farm, money in the bank. We had it made, but that were all destroyed. I want to go to the bank before I had to flee and get some money, but the bank had already been bombed, so the money was gone. So luckily I had Rosal. No, I had $800 in my purse. So luckily, that's when we fled. I had $800 in my purse. So, but then I had to buy on the black market. The stores all destroyed. So on the black market, like a gallon milk, 20 mark, a loaf of bread, 10 mark. If I wanted the egg, $1, or 1 mark. And so the money went quick. So anyway, we worked there and we did sugar beets. And so the older children had already come out and helped with the digging of the sugar beet. The more we digged, the more money we made. Like for half an acre, Heidi, think of that. A half an acre sugar beets digging and cutting and putting in a pile. The greens here, the roots here. A half an acre, $20. Can you imagine that? And all the time stooping down, picking up, throw them in a roll, then when the roll finished, go and cut them, throw the beets there, throw the green there, work.
They didn't keep the greens.
Yeah,
Oh, they
to
kept
feed the cows. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we had a lot of cows too. So, so that left Heidi and her sister. And her sister was,
Esther was a baby.
yeah, she was, I say 8 months. So I told Heidi, when she comes from school, I have the baby ready in the carriage. In Germany we have large carriages, big carriages, beautiful, better than here, stable. And to bring her out, to drive her out to the field where I am. And so, well, I looked, Heidi, no inside. I could look pretty far, no Heidi coming. So all at once the manager of the farm came with his bicycle. Most of the time he comes riding horseback and checking up on us if we do the work right. So he came on the bicycle and I looked and he came straight to me. And I said, oh no, something has happened. And so he said, you better get on your bicycle. We all drove bicycle. Go on your bicycle and go home. Something happened with your little daughter. So I jumped on the bicycle, and when I came home, the baby was sitting in a pot of warm water, and they said, she can talk. And so I said, Esther, what you doing? And she hollered, Mama! So she must have been in shock. And she had, Mama! So then she could talk.
But Renata was there, wasn't she, somewhere?
Well, yeah, then yeah. So anyway, what had happened, on the way there is a big pond, and around the pond is walnut trees, and they had people had shaken the trees and picked up the walnuts. And Heidi saw that, and Heidi stopped the carriage and wanted to pick some walnuts, which were fine. And here, Esther was in the carriage, sitting up, what's going on? And she saw Heidi's picking there and a lot of people there, and she got excited and she wanted to get out. Yeah. And the carriage started rolling and rolled right in the pond.
Is that right?
Now, I had a big pillow on top of Esther because it was cold. That was in October, November when we digged the beets. So a big pillow on top of her. So when the carrots went in the water, the carrots turned over. So that pillow was in the water and Esther fell right on top of this pillow. So here she was swimming in the pond.
With the carriage on top of her.
The carrot had fallen to the side. So, no, it was just the pillow and Esther. The carrot.
She was floating on the pillow.
Yeah, right. See, the carrot fell to the side and went down because it's so heavy. So now they decided who want to go and fish Esther out. So they said, we can swim. And you know the pond is deep.
Yeah.
So some ran for sticks, tried to reach with the sticks, but Esther went farther out in the pond. And here came the forest lady, the wife of the forest master, and she said, I can swim. And she swam in, and she got hold of a corner of the pillow and dragged Esther with the pillow out.
And it was real cold weather.
That was, you better believe it.
In Germany it's cold.
And she dug the pillow out with the baby still on it.
Yeah.
So wonder the pillow hadn't sunk.
Yeah, well, it began to sink. The forest lady said it was high time, for me to do that because she would have gone under with the pillow.
But it was down feathers.
Yeah, but still did.
So,
oh, yeah. So that's the story about Heidi.
Do you remember that?
I remember stopping and picking the tree, stopping at the trees and picking, the nuts up.
Nuts, yeah.
And I remember I've got the buggy pictured in my mind, there.
Yeah.
And that's.
Yeah. And of course the doctor came for a big commotion, and the doctor lived right on the corner, and so he came, what has happened, and so he came in the house, you know, Esther sitting in the tub, and so he looked at her and he said, oh, she's all right, she won't even catch a cold, bye. He was a funny doctor.
So it didn't even give her a cold, huh?
No, it didn't give her a cold, thank God.
Oh,
And then one day I came home, I tell all about you now.
Okay.
One day I came home and we had the cow barn on one side and the apartments on the other side. And in the middle was a big hall, and in that hall were water troughs running all the time because they always had milk in those troughs, cooling.
mhm.
That time there were no refrigeration.
Yeah.
So they were always running this cold water, and the troughs that high and the water that high and the cans in it. Okay, I came home and your father was supposedly sick, but he should have watched you, but he
My daddy.
didn't watch. And so I came, everybody was there but Heidi. So where's Heidi, where's Heidi, where's Heidi? We haven't seen her, we haven't seen her. So we went looking, and here I couldn't believe it. Here I went down and went in the corner where those troughs are. There she was laying in that trough, half stiff, in that ice cold water.
Is that right?
What was I doing in there?
I guess you want to play in the water, or I don't know, Heidi.
Was I asleep?
No, but you were kind of
Oh.
a little bit out.
Oh.
You was a
Oh, so I grabbed you, so I ran up with you and I put you in woolen blankets and shook you and did, and finally you could talk again. And so, Heidi, what, I want to play in the water, you said. So,
That's what she was wanting to do, wasn't it?
so tonight she got a high fever.
Uh-huh.
And so the next morning early, I went to the doctor. He was just lived around the corner. So I said, please come, my daughter has pneumonia. I know she has pneumonia because it kind of makes noise when she breathes. And so he came and he said, I tell you what, he was straightforward man, but he knew his business, but he did it in a way it could really hurt you, the way
Yeah.
he talked. So he said, if you want your daughter live, he said, you put her in a tub of lukewarm water. And without telling her, he said, you go and get a pitcher of cold water and pour it the back down on both sides where the lungs are, you know. Pour that cold water quick down her. I said, doctor, that will kill her. She will have a heart attack. I can do that. So he explained again. He said, if you want a daughter live, he said she has a bad pneumonia. She won't make it.
Rosa.
But he said that can save her.
Rosa.
Is that right?
So he explained again to me and said, doctor, I can do that. I kill her. Well, he said, he went to the door and he said, well, don't do it. She will die anyhow. That's the last stage of pneumonia she has. She will die anyhow. But if you do what I tell you, you might save her. So out he went. That's what the
Come here.
doctor. Rosie. You're confused. You're a confused lady. So here I stood. I prayed, God, I can do that to Heidi. Ice cold water down your...
Mm-hmm.
I prayed. But she sat there in that warm water. Terrible. Yeah, something had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So finally I got the big pitcher with ice cold water, you know, from the well.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me not to tell when I do it.
Mhm. And she was you had her sitting in warm water,
Right.
and you was gonna pour ice water over her.
The ice cold water over. Rosie! No! who picked that. So prayerful, I got that picture, and you didn't know anything. You just were sitting there, and all at once I poured this water with all the might over you, and you just yapsed, screamed, yapsed. And right away you start breathing better. So the doctor was so smart. Knock on the door, there was the doctor. He came a few steps, he looked at you, he looked at me, he said, I'm glad you did it, you saved her life, bye.
But he knew you'd done it, huh?
Yeah, when he looked at her and she went, no more.
And he was coming back to check on her.
Yeah, but he hadn't said he's coming back. Was surprised he came back, but he wanted to see if I do it. I mean, he loved children, but he was just straightforward with his talking. So the next morning he came again, and you were sleeping and had rosy cheeks. He said, she has it made. He said, you saved your daughter's life with doing that. And so he explained, he said, your lung blasen, what do you call that? Little
the
blisters.
The blisters.
Like we have, like grapefruits. Our lungs is like little grapes. On a string.
That's what they said about Miss Walker.
And so he said that were all clogged up, and the blood went through real slow.
Sluggish.
Yeah, and so that made that high fever and that not enough oxygen. So when I poured this ice cold water over her, that shocked those lungs, and the blood came right quick in the lungs.
Is that right? What
Isn't
about
that something? That's what you call hydrotherapy. You should tell that to Dr. Grievous at Wildwood.
Yep.
Let him
That's
learn.
what that
That's hydrotherapy. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Because that's what they do sometimes at Wildwood to them guys.
I took you out the top quick, like grabbed you in a woolen blanket and put you in the bed. Yeah. That healed your lung. Yeah.
But now you have to tell them a war story.
A war story.
Yeah, I like to hear stories.
Tell them about the Russians coming to chase us out first, or the Americans off the farm. Because they don't know about the farm.
Okay, well, we had the farm and the SS came. Well, the shooting and throwing bombs was so bad. It was noisy. You had to talk loud to each other in the house because there was so much air fighting. Airplanes fought together, the Germans and the Russians. And you see parts coming down. We were on the potato field one time, and here they were fighting, and sure enough, one airplane started the tail smoking, and one airplane lost his wing. And something else fell off, and we were on the potato field, and we thought, what is that, and but first we thought it's a bomb, but then we saw it coming slow, and
parachute.
the bomb comes fast. Excuse me. So we laid in the potato rolls and praying and hoping we couldn't run away because it was a monstrous thing right above us. And we were praying and hoping and laying there in the potato field rolls, and finally it came down, and when it came down more, you could see it was something light and a big thing, Heidi, as big as your house. Bam! Not far from us.
Parachute?
Wait a minute. So we were laying there while we hollered to each other, let's lay here in case it explodes now. But nothing happened. So finally, of course, Trudel was the bravest one. I got up and added a little bit to it. Ah, and I smelled gasoline. I say this is an empty gasoline tank they threw down
Huh.
from the airplane.
Huh.
Yes, sir. So, and in the meantime, we had bought a motorcycle, and I would ride motorcycle. So, what we did, we went to the house and we got your grandfather, and he examined that thing, and we got can, and we kind of shook it, and we knew there is some gas in it. So we got cans, and we had at least 10 gallons of gas.
Is that right?
And so I could drive my motorcycle again because I couldn't buy no more gasoline.
Goodness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What about that?
That was a funny thing. That wasn't scary.
Huh.
So anyway, then there came so much, and we could hear the Russians, the artillery, bum, 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 come closer, closer, closer. And we covered the windows all up because when this all light, the airplanes, they came low and shot in. And so the SS came and they looked around and they said, 4 children here and you haven't left? You know, the Russians are here tomorrow. You better leave. They will use you and kill the children.
SS troopers.
Yeah.
Hitler's special army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they said, you can leave tomorrow morning with a suitcase of 50 pounds. What do you pack in the winter time? 30 below freezing. What do you put in a suitcase of 50 pounds?
And I just got out of
Luckily,
the hospital.
Yeah, Heidi got just out the hospital with air surgery. Well,
Air surgery.
see, I didn't tell how I stole you from the hospital. Remember?
Yeah, you have to tell me. You have to tell me.
That's the third story about Heidi. So she had air surgery and she was in Glogau in hospital. And Rosal, no. Go to Heidi. Go to Heidi, here, up. And so I had to go by train to Glogau. And of course, people tried to go to West Germany. So the trains were, oh Heidi, you cannot leave, well, you let Peter. Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to let Rosal out. So the trains were always full, people hanging outside on the trains trying to get to West Germany. So here I had to go and see my Heidi in hospital, see how she's doing. Every time I came to say, she won't eat, we don't know what's matter with her, she won't eat. And here I sat there and ate an apple. I hadn't eaten anything. And Heidi grabbed this apple from me and see, she was 7 months. Yeah?
Not.
No, in the hospital you was 7 months.
Oh.
Yeah. And no teeth. But she put this apple on her, and so I said, Heidi, you that hungry? I always brought good butter cookies, soft ones. And so I gave her, and boy, she ate it. And so there came the cleaning woman. And so I said, I don't know what's with my daughter. I said, look how hungry she is. And the nurses tell me she doesn't eat. And so I said, and I bring those good butter cookies every time I come, you know, and bring good food. And so she said, well, that goes in the kitchen and that stays in the kitchen. See, your daughter doesn't see anything of that food. You know what that meant? They ate it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I went home and I told my parents, when I came the third time, I told my parents, I want to take Heidi home. And so my parents said, well, you tell him. And so I told him, I want to take my daughter home. No, they said, you can take her home. She's not ready. That is all open and draining. You can take her home like this. Okay, I went home, I got her carriage ready, I got everything ready, and my little sister went with me, and we had to fight for a place in the train with the carriage. And it was terrible. I mean, I begged and cried. They didn't want me to leave me in with the carriage. So anyway, we got in, we came to the hospital. So I told my sister, I said, you stay with the carriage by the gate. And
Carriage.
Carriage, baby buggy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, baby buggy.
Carriage, yeah.
So I can take her home. And I had a blanket over my arm, and I go in to see Heidi. And so the nurses say, well, we don't know what to do. She has lost weight. And I could tell she has lost weight. We don't know what will become out of her. And so, well, I didn't say anything. So I watched whenever they were all gone, and the hall was real quiet. And I talked to Heidi. I don't know if she had enough sense to understand what I'm saying. Don't make a noise. Don't cry, Heidi. And I grabbed her and wrapped her up in this blanket and ran as fast as I can the hall along out of the hospital, into the gate, in the carriage, and quickly in the carriage, and we ran as fast as we could far away from the hospital, because we didn't know if the SS would come and get us back. And so we went to the train station, and said, there's no way you can come in this train. So I begged and I cried, and luckily I had Red Cross training. I was a Red Cross nurse, and I had my Red Cross sign on, and this helped some. And so finally they let me in with you. And boy, in that train, you threw up one time after another. It was terrible, and really you had nothing to throw up. So anyway, then when we came to Sagan, to my parents, they were on the train station. So, and boy, they both were shocked how pitiful you looked. And so my mama said, you leave Heidi with us. Because on the farm we had too much to do.
Yeah.
You leave Heidi with us, we take care of her for a while. Yeah, they took good care of you. So that's another story about Heidi. And what happened? The same night, when I, that daytime, had taken Heidi out, the same night the Russians came and bombed that hospital.
They did.
And there is nothing left of the children, nothing left of this hospital. So thank God. God gave me in the right time, the right mind to go and get my daughter out.
What about that? You're lucky, wasn't you?
Yes, yes,
That's
yes,
something to thank the Lord for.
yes,
For sure,
Yes.
right back then.
yes. So,
What about that?
so, of course, then the next morning, we took in people. They came from West Germany and sheltered them overnight. And so there came German soldiers back from Russia. And so they said, tomorrow morning we going to Weißwasser. We have to report in Weißwasser to the army men. And so I say, oh, our pastor is from Weißwasser, and he has always said, we had church in our house, and we always had dinner together. If you have to flee, you come to us first. And so I say, we'd be glad to take you. So they took us, and in the morning, 6 o'clock, we went on the buggies, two buggies with each 2 horses, and Renate and Dieter and Wilfried in front in the buggy, and you with me. Heinz and you with me. And so when we came on the open road, you won't believe it. There were bicycles, motorcycles, a few cars. That time Germany didn't have many cars, not in the country. Horse and buggy, cows pulling wagons, oxen pulling wagons, all on the road trying to go to west. The airplanes would come ever so often, low and shot in the people.
Is that right?
The SS would ride on both sides of the road, and just the ones the wounded or dead, just kick him in the ditch, lay there. If you're dead or half dead, no different, lay there. When we saw that, and the kids were old enough to understand Renate, and they cried, Mama, let's go home, we want to go home, we want to go home. It was pitiful. I said, there's no going back, we can't go back. The Russians are there. So here were in front of us that man with 2 horses must have been a pretty rich farmer. He had a beautiful wagon with a wife and children, I think there were 3 children, and his mother. And his mother had to go in the woods. There were woods on one side of the road. She had to go in the woods. And so he stopped and she climbed down and ran quickly to the woods. So, but before she could come back, the SS came riding, they came all the time, parole, riding, checking up. And so, why you stopping? My mama had to go in the woods. You go on. Mama is right back, I will. You go on now. I can't. Mama will come. I cannot leave my mother. You go on. He got the SS got his gun out. If you don't go, I shoot the horses. So here was that poor man. His wife begged him, go, go. He said, I can't leave my mother. He hollered, mother, but there was way too much noise in the air everywhere. Anyway, so finally he pulled off. He pulled,
Back on the road.
yeah. And so we watched, we were behind him, and there he came, his mother out the woods. And she looked, she came running, and she looked, and when she saw her son were already there, she hollered, and all at once we saw her just falling over,
They shot
and
her.
she didn't move no more.
They shot her.
No,
Heart
I
attack.
think she had a heart attack or, yeah.
Was she quite elderly?
Well, she was an elderly lady, yeah.
So she saw him, but she
Couldn't
Yes.
reach it, she couldn't reach it.
wonder if she realized what had happened. Probably did, though.
I think yes,
Yeah.
that's what it shocked her.
Yeah.
So when we saw that, oh, we all cried and we said, God in heaven, where do we go? What do we do? And we had nobody in West Germany, you know, no kinfolk. We were all from East Germany. What do we do? But we had to go on. So when we came that evening to our pastor, they brought us right into the front door to the pastor. They were so sweet to us, those army boys.
Wow.
And the pastor was glad to have us. And when we got unload, got down, Renate couldn't go down. So I ran to her, to the first wagon. I ran to Renate. I said, what's the matter, Renate? Come down. So we found out had we gone a while longer, she would have been frozen to death. Her legs were
Ice.
blue, black, stiff as a board, frozen, sitting all day in that open wagon.
And
We
she
had
was in front.
wrapped up blankets, but that
that's
weren't
not-
enough.
Which one was that?
Renata,
That's the
my
oldest.
My oldest
Oh,
sister.
That's the oldest. So, boy, we rushed her in the house, and the pastor and the 2 daughters got snow, and we rubbed with snow and dropped with snow, and finally she could talk again, and we could see life came in her legs. And would you believe it, today she is suffering with those legs. And why? Because they were almost frozen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right.
That's
That's
what that
that's-
snow,
Yeah, helped
Yeah.
though. But that's what it was. And see, I was too far away for her to say anything to me
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. I had no idea that child is that cold.
was she in a wagon?
Yeah, that was, we both were in open wagons, army wagons,
Yeah.
open. And see, it was below, 30 below.
30
So,
below zero.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So you sit all day in an open wagon.
Well, that,
We don't know. That frees me to death in
that's,
5 minutes.
just think
Yeah.
about it does me.
So even though you have blankets, we had plenty
What- that would-
blankets. The army boys wrapped, but it wasn't enough. No,
But even wrapped in blankets, that wouldn't,
no,
your body wouldn't put up enough heat to
No,
warm the
no,
blankets.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could have stopped and walked ever so often,
Yeah,
get
but
some
yeah,
exercise. But
Yeah.
man, the SS would have killed us.
What
So-
did you do when you had to go to the bathroom or something?
Well, we didn't. We just didn't hide it. But we had nothing to eat on the way, no how, so So we did okay.
I'd have to go if I had nothing to eat for a week. I'd still have to go.
Oh, okay. And anyway, so then we were by the pastor for a week, and that was wonderful. He was elderly man. He was like a father to us.
The
Of course.
pastor, you say?
Yeah, the pastor. Of course, I mean, I was good. I always fed him Sabbats when he came and had the sermon. Anyway, so after a week the airplanes came all the time shooting and fooling around in air fights. But they came and threw pamphlets up and they said, tonight we come and bomb the factory, bomb factory. The pastor had a bomb factory across from his house, across the street, a big place, making bombs. Ammunition, yeah. We come tonight and bomb that. So the pastor said, Trudel, what do you do? I said, Pastor, what do you do? Do you go? He said, I stay here with my 2 girls. The mama had died 6 weeks before, but a blessing. And so he said, I stay here. I said, Pastor, if you stay here, I stay here too with the children. So he said, Trudel, that's up to you. You're responsible for your children. I said, Pastor, I don't know where to go, and you're so good to me, I want to stay here. Mm-hmm. And so he said, okay, then let's kneel down and pray. So we prayed.
Was he an Adventist preacher?
Adventist priest,
Adventist.
yeah, a wonderful man. And so then he said, Trudel, don't undress the children, don't you get undressed, whatever comes, so we be ready to run, whatever, we don't know what will happen, but anyway, don't get undressed, just lay on the bed. And so we laid on the bed, and all at once Renate, Mutti, and I looked, and it was daylight outside. Boy, I couldn't believe what's going on. Daylight. Oh, there I had the airplanes. So the airplanes threw light bombs, and that made the real light, like it is daylight, that light. And so that meant they come first and throw the light bombs, so then the bombers come and see where they want to go, where they want to throw the bomb. So, sure enough, here came the bombers. You can have when they come, man. Ooh. So the pastor knocked on the door. He said, Trudel, it's time to pray again. I said, yeah, please. So we knelt on the bed again, all of us, and he prayed. And we kept kneeling. And here the bombers came and flew around, and nothing happens. Flew around, went back a little, came back, flew around, nothing happens. And all at once, the house starts shaking, the windows, glass broke, the doors jumped open, and it must be like an earthquake,
Sure.
Sure. And so we know, the pastor said, they shovel the bombs down, But where? Not across the street, to that building. Where? And boy, that just shook and shook and shook. And then finally got quiet. So the pastor said, I'm going on my bicycle. I want to see where they threw those bombs down. Not across the street. Praise the Lord. So he went with the bicycle and he came back and he said, on one side of the city is like 10 acres of pine trees. 10 acres of pine trees. And God must have blinded those men, and they must have thought, this is the plant. And they shoveled those bombs in those 10 acres pine trees. And the pastor said, I think the whole city can be in that big hole they did with those bombs. He said, it's unbelievable.
And the bombs didn't hit in the city.
No, they didn't hit the city, they hit the forest, they hit the pine trees.
What about that?
God blinded those pilots.
Yeah.
Even with the day bombs, with the light bombs, they did not see that munitions. God blinded them, they thought this is the plant.
Yeah, he did.
I tell you, if there isn't a God in heaven answering prayers.
If anybody what you have said here And if anybody didn't believe there's a God in heaven,
That's
there's
right.
something wrong with it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right.
Praise the Lord.
Yes,
Praise
praise
the
the
Lord.
Yes.
Praise the Lord. Heidi, I said enough for tonight.
You want me to take you home?
No, I can go. But I say that what I say to the honor and praise of God. I want always that good.
Well,
And
none
I don't know why God was so good to us. We get together again and I tell you more.
Uh-huh.
What answers of prayers. God is so good and so merciful. And what does it say? In time of trouble, call upon me. I'll be glad to answer. And he does. Even though we're not doing always right. Not let always our light shine like we should. God. Now, you sure I didn't tell that? When I went with the pastor to the marketplace with you all, and then he said, go on the side street. No, that's not the same thing.
Okay, you're on. Go ahead.
Okay. After we were almost 2 weeks by Pastor Krautschik, the SS came and told us, Mama and children have to leave the city because the Russians are closed. And grandparents. So the pastor said, I'll bring you on the marketplace. That's where all the empty trucks came to take people more west. And so we got ready one morning and went to the marketplace. And Pastor Krautschik talked to the leader and told him I have a child in the carriage. She just had air surgery and it was bitter cold, so he would appreciate if we could get soon in a truck and go more west. And so it wasn't too long. There were oodles of people, but that leader stopped one truck and told him to take us. So I had no where to go, just to West Germany. So I asked the truck driver, where do you go to? And he said, I go to Dresden. And so I said, that's fine. So we came to Dresden, and he said he will set us up outside the city. He said, I know a nice restaurant outside the city. And I said, you're up there. And so I went in and asked if they would let us stay overnight. And it was an old, nice couple, and they said, yeah, gladly we let you stay with your children. And so she helped me bathe the children, and she fed us real good, and we had a good time there. But the old gentleman went outside because airplanes came, and so he came in and he had pamphlet in his hand, and they said the Russians coming tonight and bomb Dresden. So he said, you cannot stay here. You have to leave with your 4 children. I say, I have nowhere to go. I like to stay. And so he said, we will stay, we old. Whatever happens to us is okay. But he said, you have the responsibility of your 4 children. You have to leave. So here I packed everything, children, dressed warm, and we went back on the road. And it was bitter cold, and it was night. And I prayed. And after we stood a while and walked a little and looked around, we saw a light coming, and he stopped, the truck stopped, and so he said, well, we want to go, and we said, well, we have to go away from Dresden, because the Russians come tonight and want to bomb Dresden. And so he said, yeah, that's what he had too. So he said, okay, I'm going to what's the name of that city? I can't think now. And I take you there, and it was more west. So he helped us in the truck and the carriage with Heidi in back of the truck, and we took off. And we hadn't gone, I'm sure we hadn't gone not more than 20 or 30 miles when we saw and heard the airplanes come. And it was just a terrible noise. It were airplanes after airplanes. And so they bombed Dresden, and the air shook, and it was just like hell opening up. And so thank God we were safe. And when we came to Carlsdale, and I applied by my keys for a job, that was the first bakery job I had by my key in Carlsdale, I was waiting, and here I saw that magazine, and I looked through that magazine, and it says, when the Russians came and bombed Dresden, they say it was, they killed 100,000, several 100,000. No, they killed at least 1 million in Dresden that night.
Is that right?
And I mean, it was just wonderful how God protected us again. We were safe. And where did that guy take us to? I can think of the name of that city where he took us to. Behind Dresden.
You can think of it later.
Liebenau. Okay, we came to Liebenau, and by that time it was early morning. And so I told him I want to go to the Red Cross station. That was always my wish, to go to the Red Cross station, because I was a Red Cross nurse. So he took us there. And they said around dinner time, a train will come and is marked with Red Cross, and it is just for mama and children and grandparents, and they will take us further to West Germany. And so she gave me tickets. So we went to the train station, and first they fed us, and we went to the train station then and waited there, and it was a beautiful sunny day like it was today here. And all at once the siren blew. That means the Russians coming. So he spoke through the horn, or what you call it, and he said, we all have to go in that bomb shelter. But he said he is sorry to tell us that bomb shelter is not finished. It has a way in, but it does not have another way out. So where you go in, that's where you have to come out. So if they set bomb on us, we just buried alive. So when people didn't want to go in, but SS came and made us go in, and people just screamed and hollered, and children hollered, and grandparents were upset, and it was an awful mess. And we were hundreds of people going in that bomb shelter. And finally, I couldn't stand it no more. I said loud, please, would you all be quiet? I believe in praying to God, and I want to pray. And so everybody was quiet, and we always, like we always did, we knelt down, the children and I prayed for protection. If it is God's will, please protect us, all of us. Here came the airplanes, came and went, and now it was a sunny day time, sunny, and the airplanes could see the train and the train station very easy. But they came and they went and came and went and nothing happened. And finally the siren blew, and that meant the danger's over. So he spoke through the speaker and he said we could come out. But before we left, I said, would you please all be crying? I want to thank God for protecting us. And everybody was crying, and I said a short prayer, and we went out. And we went in the train. Of course, it was a hustle and bustle going in this train because there were way too many people for the train. And the train was already almost full with people. So, but finally we got in and got Heidi with the carriage in, and we went on. So we firmly believed, I firmly believed, God blinded the pilots and the planes not to see that train station. Otherwise, Heidi, we would have had it. So from there, I'm not with it today.
You don't feel like it, don't do it. Even
How about when the Red Cross, the train was bombed?
Well, that's on the end, Heidi. That's
that's
the
on the
end of
end.
the story. Okay, I made that the end of the story. There's more.
Well, you can always change it. It doesn't have to be
Okay.
right in order.
Okay. So, we went in this train and we went back and forth. Every time we went a piece, there was the railroad bumped. So the guy?
Conductor.
He had to find another way to take us. But he definitely wanted to take us to West Germany. And so we were 3 days in that train.
Yeah.
And finally, even the water gave out. For 2 days we had no water. And Heidi, you got a little fever again, and you were hard. And there was nothing I could do. Just pray. And so here, that was March. It was a beautiful day. And I opened this window in the train, and I said, Heidi, right in front of the window with the carriage. And the sun came in so warm, it was beautiful. And all at once, Heidi fell back. And the same minute we had bang, bang, bang. There came 3 American airplanes and shot at us. And our wagon had 32 people, grandparents and mama and children. And the train was marked with Red Cross all over. That should have never happened, them shooting at us. So anyway, they shot in us and the people in my wagon. And what they shot were bullets without point. And it made big holes in the wall, in the ceiling. And we had feather beds for the children. The feathers would just fly, and you couldn't even see each other. So people hollered and screamed, and every time a new bang came in, they hollered some more. So I said, please, would you all be quiet? I believe in praying. And so I knelt down by the bench with the children, and I prayed, and everybody was quiet, and the shooting went on. And the old man, a grandfather, he thought he is safe that if he goes out. And there were woods on the side, and there was a big tree right where he went out the door. There was a big tree, and he went behind this tree. And you should have seen the pilots must have seen him, and they shot this tree, and he jumped around this big tree to get out of the bullets. And so then the leader spoke through the horn and he said, everybody that's able to go in the woods. So we went out in the woods, and by that time that old man said, I wish I had stayed in the wagon. He said, my heart is just given out. And it wasn't long, he got a heart attack and died. So anyway, we went in the woods, and there were, the first wagon was full of 18 people from Hungary. Hungary. How do you pronounce it? Hungary. Anyway, and the wagon caught fire, and 16 were burned, 2 little babies. And one lost her hip, and the other were going crazy. The other one hugged the trees and screamed and hollered and sung. And so, of course, I had my Red Cross sign on and all, and so I thought I'd go and help her. And there was somebody saying, I don't remember who, saying, don't go near. She could kill you. She's lost her mind. So there was this lady laying with the leg up, bleeding to death. So there came a little girl, and she was this oldest, Renate, 7 years old. She came with a big red purse, big one. And so she said, ma'am, I'm hurt bad. And she did like this, and she had blood on her hand. And so I say, let me see. And so I say, no, it is just a scratcher. But I say, I have band-aids. I have band-aided up. And so I say, where is, you have this big purse, where's your mama? She said she is in the wagon and her head is torn up. And so I said, where's your daddy? He died in Russia in the war. So I said, who is with you? She said, nobody. And so I say, how come you have this big purse? Well, Mama always told me, if something happened to me, you take this big purse and you have every paper and everything in it you need. And so I say, if you have nobody, you want to come with us? Oh, she said, may I? And so, of course, Renate and her were buddies right away. So she was my child. And then the guy through the speaker told us to come back in the train because they had cleaned it and all to come back in the train. And we go on to Bavaria. And so he said through the speaker, we had 42 dead people and 120 wounded in a few minutes' time. And we went back in the train and heard airplane coming, one airplane coming. Of course, we all got scared again. Well, when we went back in the train, the first thing was I told the people, I want to thank God, because nobody was wounded in our wagon and nobody was killed. And I thank God. So anyway, that airplane came and it wasn't long. A doctor and 2 nurses came in our wagon, and the doctor looked around all those terrible holes and everything. And so he said he's very sorry what has happened to us, but he liked to know how many wounded people in here. So nobody spoke up. So I said, doctor, there's nobody wounded in here. So he said, well, he's sorry to ask, but how many dead people? So I said, doctor, there is nobody dead in here, got killed in here. And so he turned to me like this and he said, are you out of your mind? I said, no, doctor, I'm not out of my mind, I prayed. Well, he said, then surely God answered your prayer. So we went on to Camden, and by that time a Red Cross station wagon had come with food and water, and they fed us a little bit. So we came to Cam, and in Cam, I tell you, must have been, the whole city must have been on that rail station to greet us and to bring us presents and things. And there were find now places for us. So there were outside of camp were a farmer with wife and 3 children, and they had the upstairs empty in the house, and they told us we could go there. So in the meantime we had to register and all that, and so I told about this little girl, had nobody. So they already knew that. I don't know how they found all this out. Anyway, they were an elderly couple, and they had no children, they had no kinfolks. Excuse me. And they said, we would like to have that little girl for our daughter. And if I would give it, I said, that's up to the little girl. And so they said, can we have her for a week, you know? See if she will love it with us. And so that Red Cross made that out for a week. And then I heard from her, and she loved those people very much. So she found a home. So we went to that farmer, and we lived upstairs and helped the farmer with all the work. It was springtime, helped the farmer with all the work. In the meantime, the American soldiers would come and shot in everything they could shoot. So it was a sunny day, and the farmer's wife said, we have to go in the pasture and gather the anthills and put poison on it. And so we went, she had the 3 children, I had the 3 children, Heidi was too little, she was in the house. And so we scattered the anthill and the kids played together, and all at once out of the blue came 3 airplanes, zoom, falling down. And so there were a hedge of briars, thorns and bushes, half high. And so the Frau Bach said to the children, run in the hedge. I said, no, fall down right here. They kill us. They're right above us. And so we fell all down. And would you believe it? The planes went to that, what you call it, bushes?
Yeah, bushes.
Yeah, went there and shot in the bushes, and the bushes burned. Big fire. And they thought we had run in the bushes to hide. And here we were laying and watching that. Yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. And when that was burning, they took off. Yes.
Oh, they got you.
Yes, yes. Boy, I said, Frau Bach, we better thank God right here for protecting us. And she was so glad. I said, no, fall right here, don't go in the bushes. So then I went to, it was still war, but in Kam, they let us know in Kam is a store. He gives for people that came from East Germany whatever they need on clothes to get it free. And of course we needed clothes. I couldn't take much. And so Miss Bach let me have a bicycle, and so I went with the bicycle to Kam. I don't know, I don't remember, I guess it was 20 kilometers, 15 miles. And here I came, and all at once an army man flagged me down on the roadside. And so he said, ma'am, do you have something to drink or something? I said, I don't have anything here. So I said, what happened to you? He had still the German uniform on. So he said he came from Russia, you know, and they got scattered because of the throwing the bombs and shooting. And so, thank you, he got scattered and he was all alone. And Heidi, for days, he ran around trying to hide from the airplanes. And there must certain airplanes have known him, seen him, and they wanted to kill him. And so he said in daytime he cannot go out, and he said, and you stay away from me in case they come and shoot. He said, I don't want you to get killed. And so I say, I'll bring you something back when I come back from Kam, you know. I say, I'll be glad to. something to eat. And so by that time, sure enough, the airplanes came. And I got on my bicycle and drove, and he just fell down. And I think they got him. Because when I came back from camp, there were no sign of that guy. So anyway, when I came to camp, in the marketplace, there was that big store. And we were standing in oodles of people. Heidi was standing there waiting when the store opens to get in. In the time we were standing there, the airplanes came, shot in us. So people ran any which way.
Yeah.
And I had this, thank God, I had this smart idea, run in the store. And so I almost ran over people, ran in the store, and I was safe. And Heidi, looking out, there were a lot of people laying dead there, shot to death.
Right there behind you.
Yeah, right behind me. And so I went in the store, Heidi, there were just a few people that came in the store, so I had time to select and get nice things free. And my bicycle was right by the door. And so I got on my bicycle and I went happily home singing and praising the Lord. And there were a lot of dead women laying. And then one night, all at once, Renate woke us and she said, Mama, Mama, look at that fire, look at that light. And so I jumped to the window and sure, it was daylight. And the earth started shaking. And the Russians, the Americans were there, that were in West Germany, the Americans threw bombs on the school. And they had night school, and they got hundreds of people killed in that school. And Ray, it might sound unreal, but it is true because the Russians, the Americans wanted to end the war as quick as they can. And the more they kill, the quicker it will be the end of it. So they killed hundreds of people in that school building, but thank God they didn't come close to us. So just terrible, terrible, terrible. And then the Bürgermeister had 2 horses and beautiful buggy. He didn't live far from our farmer, and he drove, oh God forbid, he drove through town and wanted to encourage the people, you know, and all that. He was a nice man. Bach said he was a wonderful man. And the airplane came down and shot the horses, shot the men, shot everything. That was the end of the war, Heidi. It was just kill. The more you kill, the better.
Tell them about when Daddy came home on furlough one time.
What, Heidi?
When Dieter or Renata, they didn't know who it was.
Oh, yeah, that was when we were by yeah. Well, he looked terrible. He had been wounded 2 times, and he looked terrible. He came on crutches, and
But you were hugging him.
you kids didn't know him.
I know.
I had a hard time first. I
They
couldn't
didn't know
believe.
who Mother was hugging. He was hugging.
Yeah.
She was hugging a
Yeah,
stranger.
a strange man. Yeah.
The kids thought.
That was him. Yeah. And then they made a big lager, or what you call it, Heidi, where they put the German soldiers, the Americans.
A prison?
Yeah. Open camp.
Yeah. Open concentration camp.
Yeah. And Miss Bach and I, we cooked hundreds of pounds of potatoes, and Mr. Bach would make the horse and the buggy ready, and we would go to the prison, to the fence, and throw the potatoes in, because those guys were very, very hungry. But they didn't keep him too long. They didn't keep him there too long. That was after the war now. After the war was over, and the cat caught all those that German soldiers. But they didn't keep him too long, because the war was over and they let him go. and your father was one of them. He had
Yeah.
to be in that lager. He didn't want to go. He really had a fit, but he had to go. If he hadn't gone, Mr. Bach would have reported him, and then he would have been in prison, because they said, we want you come voluntarily. So he was there 4 days, and he came home, then a free man. He had his papers for free. So I think that's enough for today, Heidi.
Very good.
And this train, I was smart enough to tie the older kids on Heidi's buggy so they couldn't run away. And I was right there pushing the buggy. A lot of middle or children didn't do that. And so when we went in this train, the mama would go in and see if there's enough room for her kids. And that time the train takes off. You wouldn't believe that heartbreak. Along the train, the mamas would beg, stop. The kids would holler for their mama. The train didn't stop. And that's how a lot of mama and children got separated. And that couldn't happen to me because I had you all on the carriage. Where the carriage was, there were you, and I pushed the carriage, so we had to be together. Praise the Lord.
But when you put us on the train, you can only do it one at a time. Did you have to untie us then?
Yeah. But see, I was right there when I put you on the train. I didn't let you stand there and me go in. You went in with the carriage first and the kids all behind it. No. And when we had this bombing with that bomb shelter not finished, there were people, and I befriended one lady, and she thought the same thing. There were some Nazi people under that bunch, you know. And so she came to me and she said, can I befriend me with you and her husband, because I see you are Christian and you believe in praying and we like to be close to you. And then she would talk to her daughter a different language. And then I talked with my girlfriend, I met the friend, and we both decided, Heidi, the way they watched everything and looked around, and sometimes you could see the fright in her face. We believed they were or some high officers, tried to flee and tried to go with mama and children, mingle under so they wouldn't be found out. Yeah. It was. What a life, what a life.
Yeah, I know it was awful.
And what a good God we have. Answering prayers. Protecting. And Ray, why I really think, I ask myself often, I didn't live a perfect life on the farm. And we all are human. Why God, in front of hundreds of people, answered my prayer and protected us? I have asked that. And I have just got this answer. God, give me an answer. Because both boys are ministers preaching the gospel. That's all I can thank, by God protected us.
You had the faith you had.
Definitely. I had faith
Faith
in God.
you had is what.
Trust and faith in God. Yes, man. Whatever. My dad was a house builder, and so we lived in a town, and that was rented. And my dad wanted to build our house in the Sonnenberg of the city, Saga. It was beautiful. A mountain and just beautiful. Daddy bought a big lot there and built our house. So in September, before we moved in. So anyway, when Dad built the house, he had to have another house builder go with him in because Dad had to borrow some money. And Dad wanted to build it so 2 apartments and and we lived downstairs. And Dad figured those apartments paid for the house. And so he had to have another house builder. And so in Germany, when you build a house, you build first a little house with a long table and 2 benches. And lunchtime, everybody comes with their lunch and come in this little house and eat and drink. And so to start building this house, and here come Dad first didn't know. Anyway, Dad would be always the last to clean up and go back out to the house. And he saw this magazine on the table. And Dad said, "Oh, this is a Christian magazine." "Oh, well, I don't have time for that." So he left it. We were Lutheran, and parents want us go to Sunday school, but the parents wouldn't go always. But definitely Easter, Christmas, that were big things. Everybody would go. So the next day, they cleaned up in the house. There was another magazine, another Christian magazine, and that kind of, whatever the headline was, that struck Dad. He said, "Man, I have to take that home and read it tonight." So he brought this paper home, and we were a close-knit family. And after supper, we cleaned the dishes, and then we sat around the table, the dining room table, and Dad would read something Christian-like, and we would sing Christian song. And so while we did that, Dad brought this paper out, and he said, "Look, this paper was in the little house, you know." And so he said, we said, read something from it. So Dad read a little bit, very interesting. And so we wondered, Dad wondered, where did it come from? He said, "I didn't see nobody come in with the paper." So this went on for several days. And Dad said, "I have to watch. Somebody is bringing this paper when they bring lunch." And sure enough, Dad saw the wife of the other house builder. She put those papers down on the table. Aha. So Dad said, Dad talked to her, and he said, "I like those papers." And she said, "Oh, I'm glad you like those papers. And you know, we have meetings in 1st of November. We have meetings. And I like for you to come, and then you find out more." And so Dad said, "Well, that sounds interesting." But he said, "First I have to finish this house and move in. But if we are in before 1st of November, we might come." And so, fine. And we moved in the end of September. And so here, Frau Pleschke was her name, she came back and she said, "Okay, the meeting starts in October, and I want you come." And Dad kind of felt obligated because she was the wife of his dad's friend, the house builder, and also the papers were so interesting. So we all dressed and went to the meeting, and of course we all were speechless. I was 8 and my sister was 10. And so on the way home, Mom and Dad just talked and talked and talked. And so Dad said, "We go to the next meeting, but we take a pencil and paper with us so we can write everything down," because he quoted in the Bible, you know, so we can see if that really is in the Bible what he says. So that went on, and here, in the meantime, when we moved from the farm, we had fed a 400-pound pig. And when we move in the new house, we kill that pig. And we will have food for a whole year. So, okay, here we had, down in the barn, had this pig, fed this pig every day. Here, Fadl and Muddel, and we went to the meetings, and all at once, no, wait a minute, he didn't talk about food. But the pastor said, "I want to come and visit with you in your home." And so Fadl and Muddle said, fine, fine. So when is Fadl home? Well, at 5:30, so I'll be there around this time. So, but he came a little early, Pastor Langner. He came a little early, and so Fadl wasn't there. And so Muddle said, Muddle always want to feed everybody. Muddle said, aren't you hungry? He came from Sprottau, and he came with a motorcycle. That was the easy way in Germany to go before the cars came more. And so he came with the motorcycle, and so Muddle said, you must be hungry. And so he said, yeah, kind of. And so Mama, in the meantime, we had killed that pig. So Mama made him some thick bologna sandwiches.
Pork chops.
Yep. And she made him hot chocolate with it. I see that like today. We kids watched, and we loved Uncle Langner. We called him Uncle Langner. We loved him. And so Mama gave it to him on the table, and she said, you eat. And so he prayed, and then he grabbed that sandwich, and he kind of looked, there was so much meat on it, and so he said, well, he kind of stumbled, and so Muddle said, is something wrong with my sandwich? And so the pastor said, no, I'm sure there is nothing wrong, but he said, we're not really eating meat. And so Muddle said, she said, you can eat that with good appetite, because we raised that pig ourselves, and we just killed it last week, and and so you can eat that with good appetite. And Pastor Langner said, well, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I believe you, and it smells good and all that, but he said, I can't eat that. And so Muddle said, you mean you can't eat that? I made them extra good for you. Muddle got a little bit hard. And so he said, tonight I will preach about what we can eat and what we shouldn't eat. And so she said, and Fadl hadn't come yet. And so she said, now don't expect us in the meeting tonight if you talk about my pig. Muddle was pretty outspoken. So he left. So she said, you better leave and don't expect us tonight. So here Daddy comes home, too bad, too light,
He missed all the
yeah,
excitement.
too bad, yeah, he missed that. And so Dad right away said, Muddle, what's the matter with you? Oh, she said, that man, he will not come in our house again. And Muddle just, here, look at the sandwiches I made him. And that man had the nerve to say, that's not good for us to eat. As clean as we kept it and everything. And so Father said, calm down, Muddle. And he wants us to come tonight to the meeting, and he will tell about food. And so I'm not going. Well, Father said, I definitely go. And kids, you go with me? Yes, we want to go with me because we love Uncle Langner. And so Muddle said, I'm staying here. And so Father let her calm down some. And then he said, now, we always go together, and Muddle, you go with us. And so finally Muddle agreed to go with us. But Heidi, I still can see her sitting in that church. I mean, she was given the evil eye. And he spoke about clean and unclean food. And so then he talked to Fadl on the door, and then Fadl on the way home, and of course Fadl had wrote everything down, the Bible verses and everything. So on the door he talked to Fadl, and so on the way home Fadl said he will come tomorrow afternoon and talk to us personally again. And Muddle said, I throw him out. Fadl said, you're not doing such a thing, and I'll be home before he comes. So that night, I will not forget, we had our bedroom here and the parents' bedroom here. That night we had those parents talk together way in the night about and find it in the Bible. And Fadl, we could hear Fadl say, well, Muddle, it says here plain, we shouldn't eat it. He didn't tell no story when he said it by the meeting. It says the Bible says so. So anyway, they argued, and finally Father said, Mutter, he said, if this is in the Bible, and if we say this is right, and if we want to do God's will, we cannot eat that. Oh boy, Father really had a hard time with Mutter. So okay, the Pastor Langner came the next afternoon, and everything was talked out quietly and nicely. And so on the end, Pastor Langner said, Father Alfred, what do you think about that? And Father said, he said, you know, it is a loss for us because we've had this pig 400 pounds, and that would have given us meat and bologna for a whole year, you know, but we will not eat it, Father said. Oh, Mutter said, you must be out of your mind. So what will you do with it? So we debated, the pastor was going then, and we debated, and Father was firm. He said, we will not eat that, and that has to get out of the house. So Mutter said, okay, not too far us is people with 6 children, we give it to them. And Father said, no, we cannot give it to them. We don't want to eat it, it's unclean for us. We cannot give it to them, it's unclean to them. And Mutter said, you going out of your mind. So what do we do with it? So finally, Heidi, we went in the backyard and we made a big, big hole. And it was night now. We didn't want the neighbors, nobody see what we doing. We made a big, big hole. And we kids got in the cellar and brought the glasses and brought everything. And it went in this hole. All 400 pounds of that pig went in this hole. And then we covered it up. But you know, next morning, Mama said, look out the window, kids, look out the window. You know what? The neighbors had watched us and had picked that hole off and had gotten a lot of meat out.
Several.
Yeah, but then it is okay. I mean, we didn't give it to them.
They help themselves.
So that came the day to be baptized, and Mama and Dad both went together and got baptized. And I want to say that my dad was a big politician. He would have meetings, and I still can remember on the pulpit, he would, you know, type a German, you know, this is so, and it is always will be so, you know, with the fist, and big, big politician. And I tell you, when he got baptized, that all fell away. Now, Dad never smoked. And when they build a house and they put the roof on, then they make a big feast. And then they drink and eat. It's a big feast, you know. And so, of course, Father is for our house, so Father, the leader, you know, he had to drink first, toast to all of you, you know. And what Dad did, instead of drinking it, he would pour it down here. And under here was a bottle of the whiskey. Dad didn't drink. And that was before he was Adventist. Dad did not believe in drinking or smoking. Never.
What's she in her mouth? Chewing
Gum.
it?
So,
She just swallowed it.
so
Get it out in a minute.
Dad, and he was a big politician, and then you know, he politicked for God. You know, he became the elder of the church for 40 years. And then, of course, when the war came, the SS would come in the church and would stay by the door. And, you know, there was Father, and we could sometimes see he was kind of shaking. You know, one wrong word, you know, and they had taken him. And then they closed the church up. And then we went to prayer meeting. We went, Sagan was divided with Boba, with the big river. And we lived on this side, and old church people lived on this side. So it was 45 minutes to walk. We had to go over the Boba. So we could meet 3 people, the church was closed. 3 people could meet by somebody for a little meeting, but only 3 people. But since those people were so old in the 80s, and it was an old big house, they say, come to us, you know, and if the SS comes, we hide you. You know, big house with a lot of closets, and so we would go there, and we would go, and we would see the SS walking with their boots, bang, 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 up and down the road. And so we would, like, 2 would go in now, and 2 would go in 15 minutes later. And so finally we would be 8 or 10 people. And so we would pray together, and then we would make out hiding places, and the SS comes in, you hide there, you hide there, you hide there. And so I tell you now, that were prayer meetings, my dear. That were prayer meetings. I wish we had those today. I believe Jesus would already be here if we had those prayer meetings, one heart and one soul. And here the SS would knock all at once on the door. Didn't we see more people go in here? Where are they? So the old man would say, well, welcome, look around, real calm, you know, real sweet old people. Look around. So he would come in the living room and kind of look, and everything is real quiet. And the old lady sit there in her rocking chair, you know. And so he said, well, I guess everything is okay here. So we would come out of the hiding place, kneel down and praise God for not looking around. So of course we were scared to go out the house then. It took us a long time.
Well, they just trying to keep you from worshiping
Right,
on the church.
right. Yeah, and they always wanted to claim the religion is mixed up with politics against Hitler. That's what they want to prove. We are against Hitler. Now they had the Jehovah Witness. They were politicking too. Now they kept them in jail, but our pastor, they didn't keep him long in jail. They let him free. And I think in 4 or 6 weeks they opened our church again, because they found out we had nothing to do with politics. And Heidi, I will not forget, one day home we talked about things and how we want to go home with Christ and all, and how the sins should be forgiven and all. And so I said to my dad, I will never forget, I said, Dad, I wish I could be like Miss Stahn. Miss Stahn was an elderly lady, never married, and she was a wonderful Christian. And so I say, I wish I could be like Miss Stahn, live alone and be alone all my life, then I wouldn't sin so much. And then I know I would go to heaven, you know. And that hugged me, Dad said, Trudel, he said, whatever God bestows on you, he said, I know you will cling to him and you will be a good child. That made such a deep impression, you know. You felt like you want to be without sins, you know, so you can go home with Jesus. It was wartime. You don't know when you get killed, today or tomorrow. So you felt like you want to be ready to go home with Jesus. So that's why I say, I thank my people. It wasn't easy. Then when we went Sabbath to church with our book satchel and the Bible and lesson study in it, and these were all better homes, all better people, and they were very respected men. And then the kids would come out and call us blonde Jews and spit and call us crazy and all that. And I tell you that, I know that was hard for my dad to take, because he was a very respected man, and all at once kids holler at crazy and blonde Jews. But Dad would never say one word. He just, wonderful. What a wonderful example we had in Dad. Okay, that's how we got to the message, isn't it?